Hey, we're going to pass our buckets, take up our tithes and offerings. Just going to pray over those. Appreciate your faithfulness in giving to this house. We're crushing last year. We're crushing 2018 in attendance and giving and souls saved and everything that's happening. Come on now. Just honored to have you guys partner with us in what God's doing here. I'm going to pray. We're going to give. We're going to jump into this thing. Dear Heavenly Father, man, we thank you for this opportunity to give back to you what is already yours. We honor you with these gifts, God. It's an act of worship for us. We give with cheerful hearts because we know that you pour back in abundance. We thank you. And God, we thank you for what you've already done here today. And God, we ask that your word would be brought forth, that it would pierce us, and that we would leave here walking closer to you than when we came in. It's in your name we pray. And everybody said, amen. Hey, I want to hit something. Michael's been talking and announcing this fast, okay? April 1st through the 21st. The 21st is Easter. We want 21 days of fast up until that point. If you've never fasted before, listen, I'm not asking you to only drink water for 21 days, okay? Like you can give up one thing, Facebook, social media, chocolate, Snickers bars, Coca-Cola, a meal, a day's worth of meals, whatever you feel led to do. But here's what I know. There has never been a moment in my life when I've entered into a fast where I didn't come out better than when I went in. Never once have I given up something on behalf of God. And here's the kicker now. Here's the key. Here's the part that we sometimes forget to explain in church. You see, the point of a fast is you give up something, and when you would have been doing that something, you spend that time in prayer and studying. Okay, so like I would have eaten a Snickers bar at 3 o'clock every Tuesday. I'm going to give up Snickers bar. So at 3 o'clock on Tuesday, I don't now eat a Kit Kat. All right? I take 3 o'clock on Tuesday and I give it to God. I give up something and I replace that something with God's presence in my life. And listen, if we'll truly enter into a 21-day fast, God's going to do some things here at Easter that are going to blow our minds. You know, last week, since it's now time to summarize where we've been in this series anyway, we talked about declaring war on our words and how there's only one part of that I really want to recap. And that's how you guys preach more than half the sermon. I got one guy. That listened last week. One guy. It's true, guys. When we all get in together and it's one voice and it's one heartbeat and it's one accord, that's when God does his best work, his strongest work, his most meaningful work. And I know that it is new, and the hand raising and the clapping and the hooping and the hollering is new to so many of you. But man, we are honored to get to worship a Father that sacrificed it all for us. So we want to lift up a voice and a praise to him. But we've been in this series, I Declare War, and week 1 we declared war on our thoughts, on our minds, and the things that we're constantly thinking about, and how, man, we've got to put our dukes up. We're in a fight whether we want to be in it or not, and we've got to declare war on what we think. We can feel better by changing the way we think. We can view the world differently. In week 2, last week, we talked about declaring war on our words and how we have to speak life. We have a choice. Our tongues can be set on fire for heaven or hell. We can speak great things into our own lives and into those around us, or we can speak negativity. There's just 2 choices, and we have to declare war on our words. But this week, we're going to talk about declaring war on our actions. James chapter 2, verses 14 through 17 says, "What good is it, my brothers and sisters, if someone claims to have faith but has no deeds? Can such faith save them? Suppose a brother or a sister is without clothes and daily food. If one of you says to them, 'Go in peace, keep warm and well fed,' but does nothing about their physical needs, what good is it? In the same way, faith by itself, if it is not accompanied by action, is dead." You see, here's the point. We can declare all the war we want on our thoughts and all the war we want on our words. But if all we have are good thoughts and good words and no actions to follow it, all we had were good intentions. And good intentions only get us so far, right? I had a coach a long time ago that would often say, I want you to fill up one hand with hope and the other hand with work and see which one gets you where you want to be. That stuck with me because it's true. I can have good thoughts and good words and good intentions all day, but until I do something about it, it doesn't mean a whole lot. This past week, I come home from the office and Kristen says, hey, your mom wants me. That's how they do me. Both of them do that to me. My wife will tell me my mom needs something, and my mom will tell me that my wife needs something, and all that really means is you're watching the kids by yourself. That's all that means. She said, hey, your mom's been wanting to check out Mercy Fitness Center. She still calls it St. Edward's. That's when you know you're old. Check out Mercy Fitness because they've been looking for a new gym. The one that they went to closed down. And that was all good and well. So she said, hey, we're going to leave by 7 because there's a pool. And like we're gonna check it all out. I'm packing my swimsuit up. She had her workout clothes on. She was saying good things. They're going to go work out. They're going to get back in the routine. They're going to get in the gym. Their mindset was right. They were going to tackle it. Kristen calls me at about 9:30 that night and says, hey, we're at Five Guys. Do you want anything? I thought, listen, if you get to go to Five Guys after you work out, maybe I'll get in this workout thing. Maybe there's something to that. And I'm sitting here thinking to myself in this moment, like you went and worked out and then you went to Five Guys. She comes in to the house, and not only does she have a Five Guys cup from her drink, but she has a TJ Maxx bag. And I'm like, what did y'all do? She's like, well, we went to the mall. The mall? I thought you were going to work out. She said, well, we went to Mercy to check it out. Yeah, I thought you were going to work out. You put on workout clothes and you put a swimsuit in your bag. Yeah, but we decided. They had good thoughts. They spoke good words. But they ate Five Guys and went shopping. You see, we've got to declare war on our actions because faith with no substance is dead. And here's why this is so important to me, guys. When we're a church, and each one of us as an individual is a church, okay? When we're a church and we're out in the world and we claim Jesus, but no one sees any Jesus in us, and no one sees any Jesus in what we do, we speak it, but we don't do it. We think it, but they don't see any action from it. Then they look at us and they discredit everything about Jesus. Some of you are probably saying, man, that kind of stepped on my toes. That's a little bit of a heavy burden to carry. He carried a cross. We just sang about it. He took his one final breath and he went into a borrowed tomb. He descends to hell on your and our behalf. Surely we can not feel sorry for ourselves because we got to have a little substance to our faith, right? Surely we can declare war on our actions and say, you know what? I'm willing to fight the fight. I want good things to come from my life. And here's what I want us to understand. Point number 1. Is our path matters. Our path matters. I want to read a couple of verses and we're going to circle back through these. But 1 Thessalonians 5, 4 through 8 says, but you, brothers and sisters, are not in darkness, so that this day should surprise you like a thief. You are all children of the light and children of the day. We do not belong to the night or to the darkness. So then let us not be like others who are asleep, but let us be awake and sober. For those who sleep, sleep at night, and those who get drunk at night. But since we belong to the day, let us be sober, putting on faith and love as a breastplate and the hope of salvation as a helmet. Our path matters. What we do matters. If you have a Bible, I'm going to flip over to Nehemiah. I'm going to read a lot, then we'll flash some individual scriptures for you. Picking up at chapter 2, it says, in the month of Nisan, in the 20th year of King Artaxerxes, when wine was brought for him, I took the wine and gave it to the king. This is Nehemiah writing. He's a cupbearer to the king. So it was his job to pour the wine at the feast and to keep the king's cup full. We learned through Scripture that Nehemiah was actually a wealthy man. This was an honored position. This was not looked down upon. This was extremely important. He had an enviable position, a position that people would have wanted as a cupbearer. I had not been sad in the king's presence before, so the king asked me, why does your face look so sad when you are not ill? This can be nothing but sadness of heart. I was very much afraid, but I said to the king, may the king live forever. Why should my face not look sad when the city where my ancestors are buried lies in ruins and its gates have been destroyed by fire? You see, Nehemiah is worried about the city of Jerusalem. The wall has been either, we're not entirely sure, but scholars either believe that it was never rebuilt after the first time that it was destroyed. And so Nehemiah realizes this, or it was rebuilt and then torn back down. So Nehemiah is in distress because he's operating in the court of the king, but his people are suffering. The king said to me, what is it you want? Then I prayed to the God of heaven and I answered the king. I love that. He prays before he answers. He did something before he got. The path that he's traveling, the order in which he does things has relevance in his life. Nehemiah says, if it pleases the king and if your servant has found favor in his sight, let him send me to the city of Judah where my ancestors are buried so that I can rebuild it. We're talking about a cupbearer here going to rebuild a wall. There's no indication that Nehemiah is capable, that he knows construction, that he's ever built a wall in his life. He's a cupbearer, but he's asking to leave. Then the king, with the queen sitting beside him, I love that part. I read that and I thought, why do they reference the fact that the queen's sitting beside him when the queen says nothing? And all I can imagine is that the king was getting that look from the queen, like, you better not let this boy go. Y'all know that look, husbands. The queen's giving him that look like, you better watch your words. You better be careful. How long will your journey take? The king asked, and when will you be back? It pleased the king to send me, so I set a time. I also said to him, if it pleases the king, may I have letters to the governors so that they will provide me safe conduct until I arrive in Judah, and may I have a letter to Asaph, keeper of the royal park, so that he will give me timber to make the beams for the gate of the citadel by the temple, and for the city wall, and for the residence I will occupy. And because the gracious hand of my God was on me, the king granted my request. So I went to the governors. I did something. I went to the governors and I gave them the king's letters. The king had also sent army officers and cavalry with me. I'm going to stop there. Listen, the path matters. The path that we travel in life matters. Every day we all wake up and we have a routine for the most part. We go through the same process. We do the same things. I wake up at the very last minute possible. I'm not a snooze button kind of a guy. I know what I'm going to wear. I can be in the shower, clean, clothes on in like 8 minutes and out the door because I value sleep. I'm not like you people that set a snooze for 2 hours of snooze. Like, that ain't good sleep. I don't need any of that. I don't get good enough sleep till about 5 a.m. to begin with. I lay there and flip and flop till that time. My mind's racing and things are going on. But our path matters, and the hardest part is changing your path. Because we all love the comfort of our routine, but so many times we keep walking the same path and wondering why we aren't getting the results that we wanted. It's because our actions aren't where they should be. We're not declaring war on our actions because we just want to travel the same path we've always traveled. I took the kids to the park a couple of weeks back on one of the rare nice days that we've had. And there was this jungle gym deal where it was like a ladder up and over and a ladder up and over. So there's 4 points at which you can get on this jungle gym. And all 3 of my kids inevitably run to the same point. There's 3 kids, there's 4 points, but they all run to the same point and push each other and fight over who gets to go first. Raising a bunch of prodigies. And I walk over to this piece of jungle gym equipment, and the path that they all went to was what? The closest path. The first one that they could see. And I looked at this piece of jungle gym equipment, and I literally stopped, and I emailed myself some thoughts that I had, because this one path, this first ladder, the one that everyone could see first and get to quickest, was completely void of paint. It had been absolutely worn out. And I walk around to the other 3 paths that are on this piece of jungle gym equipment, and they are pristine. The paint is so blue and shiny that it's perfect. How many times in life do we walk up to the same worn out, busted up, beat up old path and then wonder why we're not getting anywhere in life? We go to the same path that everyone else is occupying, that everyone else is challenging us. Listen to me. If you're traveling the same path that everyone else in your life is traveling, I want you to question that path. because I'm going to guess it may not be the right one for you. Your actions may need to change. You may need to deviate and find a new path. And here's why. We serve a God that is the God of all things new. New paths, new journeys. And listen, does it take a little bit more time to get to the second or the third or the fourth point that you can climb on the piece of jungle gym equipment? Sure. But the journey's worth it. Because the path that he creates for us is not crooked. It's not easy, but it's new. It's not easy, but it's perfect. It's not easy, but you'll have his guidance if you'll go to the right path, man, because God calls us to do things that are new. And if our actions are the same old actions, we got to declare war on them because he's calling you to take a new step. He's calling you to take a new journey. He's calling you to take the long way around, but what you're going to find is something great on the way around. Number 2, prepare for great things. You have to prepare for great things. In Nehemiah chapter 2, verse 11, he says, I went to Jerusalem, and after staying there 3 days, I set out during the night with a few others. I love this too because we see all throughout this passage how Nehemiah approaches this. He's praying to the Lord, then he's talking to the king. Then he's praying to God, then he's responding to the king. Then he sets a date, and he sets a plan, and he sets a purpose. Then he gets to Jerusalem, and he spends 3 days settling in before he gets ready. You see, the pregame routine matters. Any athletes in the house know what I'm talking about. I remember being a little kid, and my uncle would take me to every basketball game that you could drive to within 500 miles. I mean, I lived in the back seat of a Chevy Camaro, and looking back on it, he made me sit in the back seat even though no one was sitting in the front. Literally. I would ride in the back seat of this, and we were going to a state championship game. There were like 10 of them, but a state championship game, and he asked me a question. I'm probably 10, and he said, if you're the coach of a team that's in the state championship game, what's your pregame routine? And I thought, boy, I'm going to get there extra early. And I'm going to shoot extra shots. And I'm going to take extra dribbles. And I'm going to run an extra lap. And I'm going to get an even better lather up. And he said, no, that's the exact opposite. He said, your pregame routine in the championship game should be the exact same pregame routine you've had every game of the season. Some of you are like, I don't even have a pregame routine. That's my point. Our actions matter. We have to declare war on our actions. You see, Nehemiah accomplishes something that a cupbearer should have never accomplished. Why? Because he had a plan. Because he spent some time in preparation. Because his actions didn't just rush into it. He was willing to take the long way around. He was willing to take the path that not every single person had traveled before. He was willing to put in some extra work. Man, when I played intramurals in college, we took it way too serious. Way too serious. And we would skip class on intramural game days. David and Holly are cringing. They're just glad Brett's not here. We would skip the whole day because we had a routine. We wanted to be prepared for that night. We wanted to be ready. And also, we took very literal the challenge that professors placed on us. You know, professors would often say in college, challenge yourself. I'm challenging myself to see how long I can put off studying and still pass your class. Challenge accepted. I passed. But man, we cared about the routine. We cared about the pregame plan. We were preparing for a win. We were preparing for great things. Are you preparing for great things in your life? Are the actions that you're living by preparing you for greatness? So often we say, God, use me. Just don't really use me. God, put me in the life of some people that I can minister to. And we get there and we don't minister. But we didn't have a plan. We didn't put in the prep work. We didn't spend the time. Listen, we had a great worship set for a reason. This team came together and the glory of God shone as they were rehearsing this morning. It doesn't happen by accident. It happens with intentionality. It happens because they prepared for something great. Do your actions have you prepared for something great? And let me put this out there. Ask yourself this question if you're unsure. What's your posture? I'm literally talking about your posture, like the stuff that your mom gets on to you about at the dinner table, that stuff. What's your posture in life? How do you carry yourself? Do you carry yourself as someone that understands that God made you, that He died for you, that He set you free, that when you see that grave, you'll see Jesus? Or do you carry yourself with slumped shoulders and a head that's down, unsure of who you are? And here's why I'm asking. If your posture's right, you're preparing yourself for great things. Let a sales guy walk into a room like this with his head down, unsure of who he is, and he's not going to accomplish great things. If you want to see good posture, find my grandpa in the lobby. That man's got perfect posture. Tall, shoulders back, head up. He taught me that when I was a kid. You look every man in their eye. I don't care who they are. You can send him to the backwoods of Uniontown, or you can send him to the White House. It doesn't matter. He's the same person everywhere he goes. And his posture mattered because, you see, he adopted that posture when he was young in life, and he didn't grow up in an educated family, and he grew up so poor, he couldn't rub two nickels together. Like, I'm talking for real poor like y'all are like, no, I grew up poor. No, I'm being poor. His father was a pastor, and you were supposed to be poor if you were a pastor back then, you know. You had to suffer a little. Had to suffer for Jesus. They got paid with poundage. Do you know what that means? People would like bring them stuff out of their garden. That's how they got paid to pastor. That's how they lived. Was literally just off of what that kind of poor. You think, man, what's that posture matter? Because he adopted the posture when he was young. And one thing that you'll notice if you spend any time with my grandfather is that he also has perfect grammar. And you think, how did the poor kid from Uniontown from an uneducated family get perfect grammar? Because he had perfect posture. I don't get it. He carried himself in a way that prepared him for opportunities. And he had a plan. His grammar's perfect because he would drive around and listen to cassette tapes everywhere he went. Every minute he spent in the car wasn't listening to the radio or a baseball game. It was spent listening to someone teaching him how to speak with proper grammar. If he never has the posture for great things, he never has the plan for great things. How are you carrying yourself? Because it matters. Listen, when people that don't know Jesus look at your life and you're Eeyore, we've talked about that. When you're an Eeyore Christian, they don't want any of the Jesus that you claim to have. We got to have a world full of Tiggers. You know, the most wonderful thing about Tiggers is Tiggers are wonderful things. Their tops are made out of rubber. Their bottoms are made out of springs. They're bouncy, bouncy, pouncy, flouncy, fun, 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 fun. The most wonderful thing about Tiggers is I am the only one. Man, people notice your posture. Your actions matter. Posture leads to opportunities. Number 3, moving quick. Start before you're ready. I love it. At the very end of chapter 1, Nehemiah writes this: I was cupbearer to the king. I love it for a couple of reasons. Number 1, he's acknowledging that he's not a wall builder, that he's not a construction guy, that he's not capable of doing on his own what God's actually called him to do. He's recognizing his position as cupbearer and not wall builder, but God's called him to step out and to do something. He's called him to some new actions, to a new path, to a new destination. And I love the tense that he writes in, I was cupbearer to the king, because he knew he was called to something different. You see, you got to start before you're ready. You've got to start speaking. You got to declare war on your thoughts and start thinking some great things. Then you start speaking some great things into your life, and it will lead to you taking some great actions that will actually make your life better. I got a finance degree in undergrad, and we spent almost an entire semester in one class talking about the value of compounding. The value of compounding interest, and how you can invest a little bit today and it will turn into a whole lot 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 years from now. The same thing is true about our actions. If we'll start before we're ready, then it will turn into great things and it will compound. It will turn into something better. And we get stronger when we compound. You can take a piece of paper, and the average person can't fold a single 9.5 by 11 sheet of paper more than about 8 times. Fold it in half, fold it in half, fold it in half, fold it in half. You get to about 8 and you're stuck because the paper has become too strong. It's folded together and it's compounded together and it becomes something bigger than you ever intended it to be. Listen to this. These are crazy. If you could fold a piece of paper 23 times, it would become 3,000 feet. If you could fold it 30 times, it would reach the beginning of outer space. 42 folds of a sheet of paper, if you could actually fold it that many times, and it would have compounded itself tall enough to reach the moon. 103 folds, and it becomes larger than the observable universe. Listen, 23, 30, 42, 103, those aren't huge numbers. But they have to start somewhere. You've got to start it. Physicist Hans van Leeuwen discovered that when a domino falls, it actually generates force sufficient to knock down a domino twice its size. If you'll start something, you've got a chance to knock down something twice the size. And then when you knock down something twice the size, you'll knock down something 4 times the size. But you've got to start before you're ready. See, nobody's ready for that first investment that's going to start compounding. Nobody's ready for the first fold of the paper. Nehemiah's not ready to become a wall builder. He's sitting as a cup bearer. But he has to start something. And here's what I want us to understand. There's no such thing as a small start. There's no such thing as a small decision that you make. They all matter. They all add up. They all become something. They all compound. Are the decisions and the actions and the steps that you're taking today leading you forward or backwards? You're getting better or you're getting worse. You're moving one direction or the other. There is no stagnation. You can't be lukewarm. You got to go or you got to back up. I want to go. I want to reach the moon. You know, there's an old proverb that says that the best time to plant a tree is 20 years ago. The second best time is now. Some of you in this room are saying there's some decisions that I made 20 years ago that I don't know how to back up from. I don't know how to get away from. Here's how. Make a good decision today. Take a small step today because that small step matters, because it's important, because it's meaningful. Take a small action today and turn it into something great. You see, the right time to do the right thing is always right now. We can't live in the past, and we can't always predict the future, but I can sit right where I am today and say, I'm going to do something great today. In this moment, I'm going to take a big step. I'm going to start before I'm ready and understand that He's going to get me to where I need to be. Last point is find some help. Man, you want to really change your actions and change your life, you got to find some help. It's not something that we do on our own. In Nehemiah 2, verse 11, I went to Jerusalem, and after staying 3 days, set out during the night with a few others. And Nehemiah had previously asked the king for permission to write letters to all of the governors because he needed safe passage, because he needed timber. He understood that the big actions, the great things, the big accomplishments don't come on their own. You got to find some people around you that love you and care about you. Craig Groeschel put it this way. It's beautiful. Show me your friends and I'll show you your future. Show me who you're surrounding yourself with and I'll show you your future. People can predict your income based upon your friends. For the vast majority of people, you can take the 5 people they're closest with, you can average out their income, and your income's going to be right in that range, is what studies have found. That is not true for me. And I thought about that, and I thought, hey, that's great. If you want to make more money, just hang out with richer people. But you know, there's some truth about that when it comes to the pursuit of God in our lives, right? Show me your friends, I'll show you your future. Are you surrounding yourself with people that want to see you better, that want to see you do more, that want to see you become a kingdom builder, that want to see you accomplish things that are beyond your own ability, because they're going to pull it out of you, and they're going to encourage you and push you and make you start before you want to start, and they're going to make you go before you want to go, because friends that are godly will lead you to doing godly things. You got to surround yourself with some people. Wrapping this thing up. We move quick. I want you to understand that you have to use your props. Now, I looked up this word, props. like what an actor or an actress would use. It says something used in creating or enhancing a desired effect. There's another definition that says something that props or sustains. I really think that those are the same thing. And you say, what do you mean use your props? When you're going to do great things, it's okay to use some props that get you in that mindset and in that moment. You see, I write all of my sermons on sticky notes. I know it's irrational. I know that it makes no sense. I know that I could get a spiral binder. I write my sermons on sticky notes that literally I stick to my keyboard. You'd think I would just type it. But I don't, because sticky notes for me are a prop. There's something that put me in that mindset, in that environment, in that atmosphere. It's something that I use to get me to where I need to be. It enhances my experience. I need 3 Bibles and sticky notes, and I can write a sermon. I need 3 translations with 3 different commentaries and some sticky notes. You see, when you have a pregame routine, what you're really doing is you're using that as a prop to get you ready to do something that you may not yet be ready to do so that you can take some big action steps. Verse 8 of the passage in Thessalonians that we read says, dressed up in faith, love, and the hope of salvation. He's saying, hey, you're not children of the darkness, you're children of the light. You're a child of God, and you live in the day. You have to dress up in faith, love, and the hope of salvation. And here's why. Because these things aren't natively there. It means that sometimes they fall off. And we've got to pick them back up and put them back home. Sometimes I don't always have the greatest faith, and I've got to stop myself and say, you know what, I'm going to pick it back up and I'm going to put my faith back on. Sometimes I don't always love people the way that I should, and I have to stop myself and say, I'm going to take an action step towards picking the love back up and putting it back on. I'm going to get my sticky notes. I'm going to get my 3 Bibles, and I'm going to start writing. I'm going to start studying. I'm going to start praying. I'm going to start preparing myself for great things. Listen, we have to keep getting dressed in faith, in love, and in salvation. If we don't declare war on our actions, we won't keep getting dressed. We won't keep getting dressed in faith and love and salvation. We won't keep pursuing godliness and greatness. We won't keep building the kingdom. We won't keep moving down the path that God's called us to move. Listen, if you'll tell yourself you're going to go to the gym, you'll think it. You'll call somebody that's going to help you, and you say, let's go to the gym. And you'll get dressed in your gym clothes. You'll do it enough, you'll end up at the gym. And not Five Guys. But how true is that of our walk with Jesus? If you'll keep telling yourself, man, I'm a child of God. And you'll keep taking an action step and saying, I'm going to get dressed in faith and love and salvation today. I'm going to prepare for something I'm not ready for. I'm going to take the path that is the least traveled because God's called me to that path, and I'm going to accomplish something great today. You'll get there. You'll start doing some great things. You'll start taking some bigger steps. You'll start accomplishing more than you thought you were capable of accomplishing. But we got to declare war on our actions. It's not going to happen on its own. We got to make it happen here and now today. Amen? Hey, let's bow our heads and close our eyes. If there's anybody in this room that would just say, man, I don't know Jesus. I don't have a relationship with Jesus. I don't know what happens to me after this life is over. But man, I want to meet this guy. I want to have a relationship with him. We're not going to embarrass you. We're not going to call you out. But if you would just slip up your hand, we're going to say a prayer with you. If there's anybody in this room that would just say, Jacob, I've got some wars to declare. Maybe you weren't here for the first 3 weeks and you say, my mind's out of control. I'm going to declare war on my thoughts. Or maybe you say, man, my tongue is on fire for hell. I'm not speaking life, I'm speaking death. Maybe you say, I've got some actions to take. There's some things God's calling me to do. There's some steps He's calling me to take. There's some people He's calling me to reach. There's some ministry He's calling me to do. There's some change He's calling me to make, and I want to take it. Just slip your hand up. I just want to pray with you. Yes. Man, dear Heavenly Father, we come to you today just honored to get to soak in your presence, to get to see your face, God. We're thankful. We're thankful because you're a real Jesus that cares about each and every one of us right where we sit, right where we are, right in the middle of what we're going through. And God, today, here and now, we declare war on our thoughts, war on our words, and war on our actions. God, we want to be the best version of us that we can be. We want to accomplish all that you've called us to accomplish, which is more than we could ever accomplish on our own. We want to live in your grace and your mercy. God, give us that pregame routine. Let us understand that it matters. God, let us find the path that you've called us to, which isn't the one that everybody else is taking. Let us begin before we're ready and understand that there's no such thing as a small, meaningless start, but that every decision compounds into something greater. And God, let us be the support for someone else and send us those that will support us in pursuing you. It's in your precious name we pray. And everybody said, amen. Hey, everybody jump to your feet for me. Everybody say this with me. I declare war on my actions. I love you guys. Have a great week. We'll see you next week.